Hi everybody, and we'll make another shot at getting you a video that works. Maybe some of you have seen the one that I posted, or that was up with the class initially. It sounds like there's some problems with it, so this is a different video. It's been a really fun few weeks. I hope that you've learned some things about policing. Hope you've learned some things that you didn't expect to learn, and are maybe some of you might have a little bit different view of policing itself. And beyond the catchphrase, it's a really difficult job, but to really see how difficult it is. This week we're going to talk about recruiting and training. Really good week for you if you're going to be going into law enforcement. If you haven't taken an interview, if you haven't gone through a hiring process, the PowerPoint lays out the hiring process pretty well. So you should really be able to get some good pointers off of that. And then of course there's always the final, where you may see some of this information again. First, in the recruitment process, the difficult part for recruiters is to get good candidates. Get candidates that will not only make it through your hiring process, but also will be the right kind of people for your particular agency, and how it deals with the challenges that are brought forth, both by the public and society, and just individuals that make the job a lot more difficult. So, as we've gone through policing, who we're looking for has really changed. In the political model, we were trying to give jobs to people that had some tie back to the political structure. Whether they had friends that were now in positions, whether they actually knew the political candidates themselves, the spoils system. And of course that started to die out, by the 1950s, as the reform era of the 20s and 30s, and then eventually the 40s brought about changes. The late 1940s, there was a pretty good pool of people that were interested in police work that came from the military, and they they're World War II vets. Remember, not everybody that goes in the military is going to be on the business end of a rifle, putting bullets down range. Most work in support roles in various ways. So they may not come in with some of the skills. Oh, they can shoot and they can do this and that. And that's really not what an agency is looking for. Doing an interview once, the final question is always, do you have any questions for us, or anything that you'd like to add? Well, that's a great place for somebody to go back and kind of reiterate what they brought forth in their opening statement, about why they want the job, why they're interested in law enforcement, what brought them to that particular agency, maybe some skills that they have, language skills, maybe superior education, athletic background, competitive nature, some of those kind of things. But sometimes people want to ask questions. The most common question is, well, when will I get my results? Not being a pain in the neck about it, but you get your results when you get them. When the scores are tallied and it goes through HR, then they get around to notifying. I mean, it's the answer you want to give, but in 3 or 4 weeks you'll know, is the one that you actually do give. But the worst question, what kind of guns do you carry? Do you have limitations on off-duty firearms? That person is more than likely going to be an immediate fail, because you start to worry about their maturity. So, that wasn't something that military firearms background wasn't something that was looked at. What the military brings are mature people, and they've been out on their own for a period of time. They're not living at home, having to make their own decisions on day-to-day life. They have to answer to a very strict and stern boss who does not take excuses well. Those are some of the qualities that the military brings law enforcement. As a professional model continued to develop, even later into the 60s and then the 70s, we had more military influence from Vietnam. Vietnam was a very, very terrible time in our history as far as how society in general treated the military and individual men and women that just got drafted and had to go where they were told to go, and they came back and they were very poorly treated. And law enforcement maybe was a touch better, but I remember when I was initially interested in law enforcement and the discussion about whether or not Vietnam vets should be excluded because they just want to go out and kill everybody. And and it was patently unfair to the people that were trying to get hired into what they actually did when they were overseas. So, moving forward, now we're in a community era, and we have to look at the prime target. College educated, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of college educated people out there. And, more and more high school kids end up just going to college because they don't know what else to do. They don't have business acumen, they don't have a job skill, so they continue to go to college. And some of you may be in that position. And now you get towards the end of graduation and you're going, well, what am I going to do? I need to get a job. And, well, man, law enforcement, how hard could it be? So the college graduate is somebody that policing looks to for a candidate. They're also looking for, somebody who they think has an eye towards conflict resolution. And this kind of goes back from agency to agency. And that's maybe the prime candidate. But when you get to the hiring process, the first thing, or one of the first things, is an interview. Now, there's 2 times that the police have the ability to make subjective judgments. The first is in their interview process. Some agencies, I think LA Sheriff's, LA PD, your first interview is actually a background interview. And the reason is that they get so many people that come through that don't have good backgrounds that they just want to get them out of the hiring process as soon as possible. So your second interview with agencies like that will be a structured interview, and where each candidate is asked the same or similar questions by the interview panels, and the interview panels usually made up of people from the department and human resources to evaluate the candidates. And it's really funny because you can just see who the good candidates are as you sit behind the desk as an interviewer. And think about the interview process. They're undoubtedly going to ask you, but why are you there? Tell us about yourself. That's your opportunity. Knock down a great 90-second statement about yourself, your education, if you have language skills beyond English, if you have cultural background beyond the American culture. Your parents were from a foreign country and they still observed a lot of their cultural values. Really good things to talk about in an interview. If you're going to school and you're an Alpha Phi Sigma, or the criminal justice society, let them know. Let them know about the community service projects you've done. all really good things. And you're going to see that for kind of your first question. Then you're going to have 2 or 3 scenario-based questions. Think about what does a police officer do? What might they have to do? What are the controversies with the police? You kind of anticipate the questions based on those ideas. You're undoubtedly going to get something about integrity. And an instant fail answer is if you do something to try to protect another officer, whether they're a peer or senior to you. Obviously, and I shouldn't say obviously because people always get this wrong, but you can't do that. That's not what agencies are looking for. So the PowerPoint will go through each of the steps in the hiring process and talk about those. I said that there were only 2 times where you saw the agency having the opportunity to subjectively look at candidates. The last time is the chief's interview, or that's either with the chief or, depending upon the agency, with a high-ranking official, a captain or something of that nature. The more people in the department, the lower level the person for that final interview is going to be. And, be prepared. Years ago, it used to be the chief telling you how cool he was. And now that's changed dramatically. I have had pleasure of working with a chief that had a lot of big city experience. And he said that hiring was the most important thing that he did as a chief of police. And the people that do the hiring, they really look at it that way. They're not just trying to get, their buddies hired or people that are made in their image hired. I mean, they're by and large looking for the really good candidate, the person that is going to be successful and is going to make it through, each of the final steps in the hiring process and then move on from there. It's the difficult part when you look at hiring professional police officers in a community policing era is the fact that police still face violence. With all of the discussion about how the police can better deal with the community, well, a vast majority of the use of force by the police is in a response to some level of resistance. If people complied, then police wouldn't have to use force at all. It's when people don't comply, or they want to argue, or they think they can talk you out of the arrest or whatever they're trying to do, and that's seldom productive for anybody, for the officer. But that's where you have force issues that come in, and there's the outside chance that you may have to take some really aggressive action against people, and that's much more of the concept of the professional model police officer, the former military that does it responds instantly to commands, and those things are nice. The idea of discipline, and by discipline I mean acting reasonably in situations, that takes discipline, that takes self-control, and also takes the ability to examine a problem and determine whether or what the best course of action is. So as you you go through the PowerPoint, one of the I have a section in there that I talk about challenges to recruiting, and one thing is you may have a city that is trying to hire people in a demographic that is that matches the community, and for multiple different reasons, and none of them bad, but multiple different reasons, you may not get enough superior candidates, that would meet that expectation from the community. So managers have to ask themselves, do I hire somebody of lesser quality that meets these demands that the community is making? Understanding the risk of hiring someone who doesn't have the skill set that we need for this job. Really, it's really tough, tough issue. And the easy answer is nope. You're only going to hire the best candidates. That isn't what always happens. Those pressures can be pretty pervasive. So once you get through the hiring process, the next step is the training process. The California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, that's a group that oversees the training of police officers throughout the state. They put down guidelines, and agencies are expected to follow the guidelines. I put a video up from a different state. I think I'm not positive what state it is, but it talks about, it's kind of a 2-week live-in pre-academy and kind of indoctrinate the student to what academy life is going to be like. So if you have a chance to watch that, it is kind of interesting. It's very much high stress, high physical agility, stuff that you see in the first few weeks of any academy. Because people were going to decide that they don't like the style of the training, they are not committed to it physically, or it just wasn't what they expected. And suddenly they're in this environment, and it's just not what they wanted, not what they signed up for, and so they'll leave. So that particular video says the first 2 weeks of their indoctrination, they call it the recruit stage, and then they go into the cadet stage where they're in the police academy, which has a much broader area of study. California requires a minimum of 26-week academy, and generally recruits are not police officers. They are not authorized by the state to carry a firearm. They don't have individual police powers, meaning that they can make arrests for felonies not committed in their presence. All of those, they're civilian employees. And of course the reason is money. It's a lot cheaper to have a civilian employee for $20 an hour as opposed to a full-time sworn police officer at $30 an hour. Over 26 weeks, and that works out to a little bit better than 1,000 hours. That's quite a bit of money, and multiply that by however many recruits you need, and that kind of gives you the idea. We'll talk about in the PowerPoint different academy styles. California basically is the stress academy, similar to what the video has, and each training concept in California, some are a stricter, higher stress. And you generally see that in agencies that have a higher injury or assault rate on officers, getting them in a more military kind of mindset. I hate to use it because so many of my peers in the academic world really cringe at the idea, but it's, in many environments you have to have the warrior mentality, meaning that, if everything's good until it all goes bad. And when it all goes bad, you have to be able to react in a manner that regains control of an environment. So as you go through the academy stuff and recruit training, just kind of a warm up for you if you were to to think about this so that you have an idea of what you might expect. From there, after recruit training in the academy, your next phase of training would be field training. Field training comes in a couple different flavors. I have them listed as San Diego and Reno models, although Post has changed that to police training program and field training program. The police training program is more along the lines of the Reno model. Not a huge amount of agencies have adopted this, and I think it's for a few reasons. One is that it's quite a bit different than what agencies or individual officers went through in their time and then as recruits. And then the other issue is the fact that it's a little bit more labor intensive, considerably more labor intensive for the field training program. And when a person's in field training, you still got to answer calls for service. It's just like community policing. Really good idea of how community policing should work. The only problem is you still got to put people in the field. They still got to answer the radio. So the FTO program is high stress. What you learn in the academy, you now have to be able to recall instantly as recruits go through the 41 learning domains. And as they're tested, it's like any other student. As soon as the test is done, whoosh, they get rid of the information. So some hints in the field training program as to how to best react as a trainee. And then, of course, we'll talk finally about advanced officer training, AOT. Advanced officer training, tons of it out there. A lot of people make a lot of money providing training for police officers. Even here at Long Beach, we have the Center for Criminal Justice, and basically that's a training process where we have different topics that are presented, usually in a 1 day to 2 or 3 week format, and the information obtained will work towards the advanced officer training requirements of the 24 hours for every 2 years. And that's a big commitment, especially for a small agency, where you can't just go and find somebody to fill a hole in patrol. If you've got 10 patrol officers over, 7 days a week, 3 shifts a day, 365 days a year, you don't have a lot of room to have somebody go off to training and be gone for a day, let alone for 2 or 3 weeks. So again, people underestimate that, because anytime you see a police problem or a perceived police problem, one of the first things they say is, well, officers need more training. Well, there's a lot of challenges to that. The expense, backfills, making sure that you meet all of your required topics, your perishable skills topic, arrest and control, driving techniques, tactical communications, force options, the discretionary, time, 10 hours every 2 years. Well, it doesn't give you a whole lot for some of the other concerns that arise. The private concerns. Officers need more training on substance abuse, and whatever special interest topic you can think of. Officers may very well be asked to, or told to participate in those kind of courses. And then there's other training, for other areas. SWAT is a 2-week academy. Really cool. Had a great time when I did it. Got to jump out of perfectly good helicopters. And lots of shooting, lots of tactical discussions, but a different mindset and mentality for the SWAT officer than for the patrol officer and the detective. Executive development, training for managers. When you make lieutenant, you go to a management school. You make captain or commander, you go to another school on more on the executive lines, and then finally, chiefs have training processes that they go through to get them ready to deal with the demands of being a chief of police, which is having 15 people pulling at your time at all times, and many trying to manipulate you into making a decision that's favorable to them. So it's a difficult deal. So those are the things you're going to see this week. One of my favorite topics, probably all the rambling that I did, really brought that to your mind. And I apologize for that. Hopefully this will get up and you'll be able to see it. Other than that, we'll see you in class. Oh yeah, next week all you have to do is a final. I'll try to get a study guide up for you, early in the week, if not late this week, so you can start to look at it and get fully prepped out. Don't wait for it, but hopefully I can get something for you.